In this brief video excerpt, I want to talk about Friday. I previewed this on Thursday already, but the incentive to watch this is I'm going to go through another one of the responses on the Martin Luther Da Vinci DBQs that are due on Tuesday that are a test grade. That's the incentive for watching this. I'm going to go through another one of those if you're so inclined on this that's due on Tuesday. I'm going to hide my head here so I can get this out of the way. So again, remember slides 8 through 12, the key figures matching notes that we've been working on pieces of in class the last 2 days. That's technically due today. The whole notebook is due with the test on 10/27. Remember that the test covers the Renaissance and Reformation, and I did make a review, but the review isn't so much necessary as for previewing purposes. Remember too, at the bottom there's a question on the Venn diagram, slide 5 of the notebook, the A10 notebook, asking you to compare Catholicism, Lutheranism, and Calvinism, one trait unique to each, two that connect them, and one each that connects the three. So remember, that is on Tuesday, open note, open resource for your edification. Remember, the scientific revolution is where we've been, and we're at the bottom on the Reformation activities. And remember, this is the before and after notes. I've explained this, and I can put up a recording of class to help you with that. If you need further clarification on that, remember, you're broadly summarizing the after piece. Broadly summarizing the after piece in the notebook. It doesn't have to be fully it doesn't have to be summarized word for word, but the slides down at the bottom can be summarized word for word down here. These ones that we're talking about, the different major contributors, and certainly by no means do we have them all, but they are the major ones in the scientific revolution. Again, the last piece of the Renaissance, the last piece of the idea of humanism emerging, the scientific knowledge that's emerging. So again, make sure you have a picture of these guys as well as their significance, and then the before and after of this, and putting it in a color other than black. And how did it impact the future in science and in the world? Those are the questions to be asking. Okay. Back to the topic at hand. Again, the test is part of the operation, but you must understand that you also have some short answer questions, document-based questions. Started going through those in class on Thursday, and then you're going to do some of them independently. But looking at this document, so let's take a look at it and open it up. You have various documents are worth certain points. If you are in first hour, I apologize. You can cut this particular question out. We cut this question out and it ended up cutting it out so if you're listening to this in first hour, you don't have to worry about that question. But we went through extensively and in detail, and I'm not going to belabor it. The Da Vinci, the purpose of this particular document for Vasari, as he wrote about the life of Leonardo da Vinci. And if you're in first hour, the context, I add a little bit on the context, wrote about hundreds of artists in his life of the most eminent Italian architects, painters, and sculptors. So remember that the happy here is the idea that, and I'm going to move my fat head again because it's in the way. The idea that with this is that he, the historical context, he's studying the lives of Renaissance artists, including Da Vinci. Let's zoom this in a little bit. Studying the lives of the Renaissance artists, including Da Vinci. Who was the audience? People interested in learning about Da Vinci's contributions. A point of view, Vasari is a third person primary source because he's writing it just right after the Renaissance. Da Vinci dies 1519. He's writing this, as you can see, around 1550. And then to inform people about the accomplishments of Da Vinci is the major goal. He claimed that Da Vinci's abilities were supernatural. If you read this, he's talking about how he's using words like supernaturally. He's using words like divine, godly, endowed by the hand of God. So he's using these types of words. So he claimed that, and these parts should be answers in complete sentences, just the parts that are the happy, no need for that. He claimed that Da Vinci's ability were supernatural, endowed by God, and not by human teaching alone. Okay, I went through that one already, but now I want to look at the one more document, and it's actually one of the ones that you might have had to do some outside research, but I'm actually going to help you a little bit with this one, and that is the one on the sketches as Da Vinci as a true Renaissance man. So this really emphasizes the point of Da Vinci as a true Renaissance man, and how he's truly a man of multiple talents, way ahead of his time. So we already talked about in class about the sketch of the human body. But look at the aerial screw. So if you do a little research on the aerial screw, you'd find out that if you did a little research on the aerial screw, you'd find out in context that it was actually it actually ends up being a prototype for the modern helicopter. He was trying to get it off the ground, but could never. The weapons of war are actually prototypes for different weapons of war, like a catapult for launching cannon, and other items, and even the tank. So again, looking at this question, it asks you, how does Da Vinci contribute to modern science and technology? These sketches were prototypes for later developments. That's the way he's contributing to science and technology. Da Vinci was the first to sketch the human body and the skeletal system. Weapons of war were the forerunners to equipment such as the crossbow and the tank. Or the catapult. The catapult was there. Was one of the things. This catapult was equipment, forerunner to the equipment like that, and the tank. And again, the basic equipment, the basic principles of the aerial screw provide the model for how modern helicopters fly. So this is truly an example of how he is contributing to modern science and technology, and providing evidence for that, which is what you're going to need to do for the rest of these. I'm not going to go through belabor all of these, but you have Luther's 95 Theses. We already know the historical context and the purpose of his 95 Theses. This is again the indulgences, concerning the granting of indulgences to the church. Remember that the idea is that what's the historical context? This was the church was responding to Martin Luther, right? And it's talking about how the indulgences were corrupt. And again, evidence for the text. What are two ways that he responds? And this is talking about how Martin Luther's actions led to a war, what later on would be called the 30 Years' War. And by 1648, almost every major European power had become involved in this. And 2/3 of Germany's, some areas saw 2/3 of their population killed by this war. So the question is asking you, how did his Reformation have a negative impact on Western society? And it emerges into open warfare. But then, based on the passage, how would it impact Luther's Reformation have on the authority of the Pope? By the end of the war, the dominance of the emperor had been severely curtailed, and the Pope had been all but eliminated. Right, so you can see that from the last line. So you're looking for evidence. Document 7 is talking about Petrarch and how his ideas represent humanism, that people are free to pursue their own interests of knowledge while criticizing traditions and people in power, but still being religious. So he's making a comparison to the Middle Ages, and then how the new Renaissance man emerges, and how Petrarch is the perfect example of that. So that will help you to provide you some context clues for that as well. If you're looking for further assistance here on this, if some of these get off the page, we can kind of move them up, or if you need to, that's fine as well. And I realize one of the numbers is ended up missing. Now there's no number 3 since I cut it, but I didn't renumber, so we'll just deal with that in such a way. So again, this is a test grade that's due on Tuesday at the end of the day. So it'll be the same day as you actually take your open resource test. That's more objective on the Renaissance. So I wanted to provide you with a little update. This is your Friday activity, is to mainly focus on the Da Vinci Luther humanism DBQs and answering those thoroughly in complete sentences, except for the happy part. The scientific matching should be done, but if you need to wrap that up, you need to wrap that up. And if you certainly need to get hold of me on Friday, the Friday meet link will be open.